You're listening to the Bulldog Hour, getting you inside the Wilson football program with weekly game previews, recaps, highlights, and interviews. Now, here are your hosts, Joe Mays and Justin Raffoff.
Well, hello once again, Wilson football fans. Welcome back to the Bulldog Hour. Here we are, episode 2 of season 3. Back again after last week where we talked with some of the 2017 senior Bulldogs. This week we get to showcase our interviews with the coaching staff. If you're new to the show, welcome. I'm Joe Mays, one of your hosts. Sitting next to me, my co-host, Justin Raffoff.
Yeah, it's good to be back and getting even closer to football season starting. Give you some more insight to the program tonight. It'll be a lot of fun. For sure.
It was a great time interviewing the coaching staff. Coach Doms was great this year. This is our third time doing the show, getting to talk to these guys. It gets easier each year, and the one with Coach Doms was specifically very interesting and has a lot of information. It's long. It is long. It's probably the longest interview that we've had on the show, but it's definitely worth it. I think we covered a lot of questions that people want asked at the beginning of the season. We look back on 2016, and we talk a little bit about kind of like behind the scenes or administrative stuff, which maybe sounds boring on the surface, but when you get into scheduling and how Wilson operates in the LL League, things like that. If you're ever interested in, is Wilson going to leave the LL League? Do the LL League want Wilson to leave?
It comes up every year, not necessarily at Wilson,
right?
But it comes up when people are discussing Mifflin and Exeter kind of vying for that Section 1 in Berks 1 division, championship every year. There's lots of talk in that realm, that kind of filters its way over, and the reporter in charge of answering those questions always shoots that down before they're even done, finishing the question.
But it comes up all the time, whether it's on, Facebook groups, internet comments,
it's
Twitter.
It's a legitimate thing, too, as you get into school budgets and things like that.
Sure. You talk about travel costs and things like that, because obviously Lancaster, Lebanon, farther than going to the Burke schools, but what's always interesting to me is when people bring up, and usually this is from the Wilson people, it's usually outside of Wilson when people talk about leaving the LL and people assume us going to Berks. Usually the Wilson people that talk about leaving the LL, and I'm not talking about the admins or the coaching staff.
Right,
I'm talking about fans in the community.
People in the stands.
Right.
Yeah.
Want Wilson to go to the Mid-Penn because that's where, all the competition is. And like anything, though, there's ebbs and flows and ups and downs. And, Wilson hypothetically could leave and go to another league, and then all of a sudden, what if that league's not good anymore?
Right.
It just LL has been down a little bit over the last decade or so.
I feel
or
like
so
in
people
the last
think.
couple years, it's started to really swing back. They've gotten some stability at some of those key programs again, which is huge.
Yeah, it was. I mean, Manheim Township has been very good for a number of years. It was disappointing to see Penn Manor drop off because they had built a really nice program under Todd Mealy, and hopefully John Brubaker will get them going now in his, I believe, his third year with them.
Because you have the Manheim Central pedigree there, in a coaching staff. So, he knows what it takes to get that program up and running. It's just, can you do it? But
we saw Warwick burst onto the scene last year and surprise a lot of people, almost including Wilson. I mean, they were surprised, but they didn't lose. Right. They got caught off guard a bit in Week 4, and we'll see them welcome them to Gursky in Week 4, as we mentioned last week on the first episode of Season 3. But second episode here, we're going to interview the coaches. Before we get to those interviews, we do want to go over the business again like we did last week. Just want to remind you to make sure that you're following us on a variety of social accounts, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and also subscribe to us on YouTube so you can get all of our shows past and present.
Yeah, if you follow us on those things, it will let you know when we are putting content out there.
Yeah, I was going to signal out one thing, be like, if you only do one of these, make sure you go here. But we do a lot on all of these accounts, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and they're all used for different reasons. Obviously, Instagram gets all the pictures. Twitter has a lot of the updates. and Facebook has a lot of the links. So make sure you like Bulldog Hour and Wilson Bulldogs football on those accounts. And don't forget, you can also contact us via email or our contact form on the website. And the website is a great place to go in case you don't remember where any of these things are, or you want to look at or listen to a past show, or you want to see who was player of the game. All that stuff can be found at bulldoghour.com. We also will be doing the show live, starting with the show after the Week 1 game against Governor Mifflin. So Sunday, September 3rd at 8:30 p.m., we will go live with the Bulldog Hour to recap that Mifflin game and to preview Weeks 2 and 3 at Springford and versus Central Dauphin, the first home game of the 2017 season. So, again, that's one of the main reasons to get on Facebook and like the Bulldog Hour and Wilson Bulldogs football, is you can watch and interact with us on the show live in just under a month. Lastly, please support the show. Again, it doesn't have to be monetarily, but like Justin mentioned on episode 1, we will graciously accept any monetary donations. If you'd like to sponsor the show or advertise, again, go to bulldoghour.com to get that information. But spreading the word is very important. Like the accounts, follow the pages, and like Justin mentioned last week, share. Share whatever you can, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Share the website. And word of mouth, in the stadium, at work, whatever. If you know someone who's a Wilson fan, a Wilson alumni, whatever, just make sure you let them know that the Bulldog Hour is back and gets better every year, I hope.
Yeah, that's the key. Right.
And we're trying our best. But we appreciate all the support we've gotten from the team and the fans so far, and we hope that continues as we venture into Season 3. All right, well, enough with business of the show. Let's get down to it. Let's tackle these coach interviews, and I've been hyping it up because I think it's a good one. So we're going to get right into the interview with Wilson head coach Doug Doms. All right, well, welcome once again to the Bulldog Hour, Coach Doms, and congratulations on a wonderful 2016 season last year, highlighted by your 9th straight league title and the program's 7th district title. Looking back, before we look towards 2017, is there an aspect of the team from 2016 that allowed it to be so successful?
I think that we had really good team chemistry. I mean, the kids really liked each other. They were good friends and all that, and that made a world of difference. You know, I say all the time, if you have good chemistry, the kids are going to play for each other, the kids are going to pull together as a team, and I think that was the difference. I don't know that we were the most talented team in the league, or the most talented team in the district, but you know, our kids worked hard and they believed in each other.
Did that chemistry, did things gel after a certain point of the season, or was it just like a constant build-up throughout?
I think it was pretty much a constant build-up throughout the season. I mean, we got better every week, which is really what you want. Probably the hardest part of the game was we still made some mental errors towards the end that, you know, against Pittsburgh Central Catholic ended up, you know, really costing us because we spotted them the first 3 touchdowns on mental mistakes. And when you play teams of that caliber, you can't make those mistakes. But, you know, that part would be the only part that we're going to work a lot harder on this year. You know, thinking of ways not to make those errors. I mean, you're always trying to, but, you know, we're going to work that much harder at it.
Other than the chemistry from 2016, is there anything else that you hope the team this year takes from the squad before then?
I think the seniors this year are going to take the leadership roles that the seniors last year took. And it was a very positive lead by example role, and this year that's going to be really important. You know, we got to find out who the leaders are going to be, how they're going to react to adversity, and are they going to lead their team when the chips are down.
Justin Raffoff came up with this question. He couldn't be with me today for this interview, but this is one that I definitely think is an interesting angle because it's a stark contrast to what we asked last year. Last year during this interview, we talked about the disappointment from 2015, the holdover, and, you know, how do you adjust
the expectations with the 2016 team, what do you talk to them about? We know how that ended. Well, this year's the opposite. We're on the other end of that spectrum. So how do you prepare this group of young men that's tasted success and earned titles? How do you keep them focused? What are you jamming home this year?
The big thing is nothing is yours. You got to earn it. 2016 is history. Everybody, you've got a huge target on your back, and we got an awful lot to prove. And there's a lot of pressure. I mean, we as coaches feel pressure, but they as kids, 9 straight LL League championships. They don't want to be the one to lose them. 54 or 53 straight winning years. They don't want to be the one to lose them. I don't know, what's the win streak at?
64.
4 straight LL wins. They don't want to be the one to lose it. So there's going to be a lot of pressure on them. And if knock on wood, that would happen, how are they going to respond to that pressure? So that's the mark we have with these kids, just drilling into them. Hey, that was last year. This is this year. It's a whole new year. We're all 0-0, and are you going to, make your own mark? Is 2017 going to be a year that everybody remembers?
And how do you address, or how do you think that's being handled right now? That you put that out there, I'm sure, over and over again since things started in the winter already, and now as they increase over the summer, are the seniors and the leaders taking hold of that?
I think the seniors that are returning starters are starting to grasp the idea. They're learning how to lead. And we do a lot of things. We're always talking to them about how to lead and things like that. They have to learn. They find their way. Some of them think you lead simply by yelling, and that usually doesn't work. That's a little thing. So they're learning how to lead. And the key then is everybody else is still too worried about trying to learn their spot and earn their spot. So hopefully those seniors that played and started for us last year will continue to develop leadership roles.
Now, you mentioned, talking about that, answering that question, the multiple different streaks that are happening with the program. I know the one, and this was talked about when I played with you, when I was here as a player, was the winning or non-losing seasons. Is that the main streak? Has it just kind of evolved into this thing with the games and the titles? And
that was always the main streak. And when you think about it, 53 straight seasons, this would be 54, without a losing record is, I don't know that happens anywhere.
Right.
That's phenomenal. That's a tribute to coaches and players going way back to 1964.
Yep.
The other streaks, the 9 league titles in a row is mind-boggling because there were probably 3 or 4 years. I think probably 5 of those 9 years we were the best team. Mm-hmm. But there was probably 4 years that on paper we weren't the best football team, but our kids just refused to lose.
Yep.
And our coaching staff did an excellent job preparing them physically and mentally and emotionally. And they went out and won some games that we shouldn't have won. And then the 64 league wins in a row is just really mind-boggling. Because how do you do that? I don't know how you do that. That's like, it's 7+ years since we've lost a league game. Usually you can win a league title if you lose a game here and there. Maybe you share it, or you can still win it.
It's hard to fathom. It's tough to think about, especially when I think about now. I've been back in the area and working in the middle school, junior high program since 2009, and this streak is older than the time I've been back here. And I feel like I've been around for a while now, and that streak has been going on for that long. And it kind of goes hand in hand with the titles. If you're beating everyone, you're going to keep the title streak going. But yeah, it's quite an amazing feat, and it's kind of developed its own stigma of good and bad.
Yeah, absolutely.
The Reading Eagle likes to run with it. They like to bring it up, which I'm sure the kids and the fans love, but outside of the Wilson community, I'm sure they're sick and tired of hearing about it.
Well, and 2 years ago, I guess Manheim Central had the lead in Lancaster record for, I think they were like 53 in a row or something like that.
Yeah.
And so when we finally broke that, I thought, yeah. And now it's just become a beast of its own.
Yeah.
So
when I can't remember now if this is when we tied it at 53 or broke it to get to 54. It was one of the games that I'm remembering is the 2015 at Hempfield. I can't remember if that was to tie it or not, and for a while it looked like, it was going to come to an end. It's not here, we're not going to tie it or we're not going to break it. And then Jeff Reiner was at that game saying that he was at the last time that Wilson lost at Township, and he was, he was kind of insinuating about being a jinx, but then it kind of turned itself on its head. Obviously, Wilson ended up winning, and then he was like, well, I jinxed I jinxed it from ending this time because I'm talking, it's just kind of a funny way
Jeff
that
Reinhardt always he always picks the other team to win. So.
Well, I think you'd prefer that to keep happening.
Oh, absolutely. I was really upset with him last year because he picked us to beat Cumberland Valley in the district championship game. And I was really upset with him. I said, what are you doing, Jeff? You never pick us to win. He laughed and said, well, I did this now. And then we were down 14-0 at half.
You're thinking... It was all coming true. It was true. All of everything that Jeff was saying. The opposite happened. So last year was the first year for the 6 classifications across the state. What about this season? Are there any significant changes? I know the organization is probably not changing itself the way it's organized, but what about, are there rule changes? Anything that's going to impact the way things come out during a game or at the end of the season?
No changes in classification. There is one major rule change, and it has to do with kickoffs.
Okay.
Where you, on an onside kick now, if you drive the ball into the ground and it takes the big hop, and the first big hop,
yep,
you're allowed to fair catch that. Sort of like it is in college.
Really? Wow,
you're allowed to do that before. Now, if it takes 2 or 3 bounces and goes up, you can't fair catch.
So if you drive it hard into the ground and it shoots up immediately, the receiving team can fair catch that.
Receiving team can fair catch.
Okay.
So
I'm sure that's for safety and protection of the players.
And I don't know if you remember going back to North Allegheny several years ago in the
2012
state semifinals when we returned the opening kickoff for a touchdown.
Jesse
Poor, and then we just about returned the next punt for a touchdown. They made a shoestring tackle on Jimmy Brooks.
Yes.
Their kicker the rest of the game kicked on sides, but he was kicking straight down the field, and it would go 10 yards and then bounce up in the air, way up in the air, and we'd be standing there, and they were getting there the same time the ball was getting there, and we can't fair catch it.
Right.
Now that's a play that you should be allowed to fair catch that in my mind. Because you're a sitting duck. You're sitting there and they're running full speed.
Yeah, almost.
In college, you can fair catch an onside kick whether it hits the ground or not. In the pro, obviously you can't. If it's down
right, if it's on the ground, you're not saying
like that. If it's up in the air above your head, you can fair catch it.
Yeah.
And so I think they're moving towards that for the safety reasons.
Yeah, and obviously we've seen that trickle down from the pro level. Everyone's focused on concussions and player safety, so that makes sense.
Sure.
So let's talk a little bit about scheduling, because with the change of the classifications, that's kind of become an issue last year mainly, though it trickles over into this 2-year cycle that we have here. What role do you play in deciding your non-league opponents? How do you and Director of Athletics Drew Kaufman determine the years, what ends up for Wilson being the first 3 games?
Basically, and Drew's very good about that, he lets me decide who we want to play. And obviously, the teams have to be willing to play us. So, the thing that's really gotten goofy with it is the PIAA when they said, okay, we're going to this 6 classifications and we're going to stop a week earlier at the end of the year, but we're going to allow you to play 0 week, which is this week of the second scrimmage. So what has happened is, with the exception of District 3, last year everybody in the state played 0 week. District 3 was the only one that didn't. So that meant we had 2 scrimmages. This year, a whole lot of District 3 teams are picking up 0 week because next year they have to play 0 week. Right? Next year they're going to 1 scrimmage, and then you're going right into the season.
I didn't know that was a definitive. So
that's a definitive.
So even
Wilson, it is for our league.
Okay.
And since it is for the LL, I'm sure.
Well, and you say the rest of the state's doing it, so everyone probably.
Was the only one that wasn't
okay, so everyone's kind of getting on the same page then with
pretty much.
What would that be, the 18-19 cycle of
right.
Games? Okay, so that kind of answers my next question: is Wilson going to be playing in week 0 in the coming years, and then we'll be losing a scrimmage then, so it'll be
starting next year. We will be playing week 0, which will be the week of the second scrimmage. So we'll lose that second scrimmage this year. Our second scrimmage is against Reading.
Correct.
All right, on Friday night at Albright. Next year, we have to play a 0 week. We don't know yet who that's going to be. We're negotiating with several teams.
Okay.
North Penn's interested, Central Dolphins interested, Harrisburg is interested, Reading might be interested.
So right now, I know you generally deal in 2-year contracts with teams because you don't want to be caught, holding the bag while someone else is leaving you. And I guess that kind of happened with the second scrimmage this year. You jostled around with some teams who ended up playing week 0 or had already had a second scrimmage. Ending up with Reading is cool, though. It's nice to have that Berks County flavor in the scrimmage week. But are there any teams you are contracted with next year or have an agreement that we're going to play? We're just figuring out where the schedule will line up?
Everything next year is already set.
Okay.
With the exception of 0 week.
Of 0 week, you're trying to figure out. So you mentioned Central Dauphin possibly being a 0 week, so they would move from the current week 3 to 0.
Right. The only thing that may change is we're still going to be able to play Mifflin Labor Day weekend.
So the regular week 1, what everyone knows is week 1, that's Mifflin. Okay.
Both of us agreed. Everybody's home, great for the crowd.
Sure,
it's
absolutely.
a great time to play it. Our question is, do we play? We don't have the contract yet, but do we play Spring Ford week 2, or do we play Central Dauphin week 2?
Okay.
So it'll be one of those 2 teams.
So Springford and Central Dauphin are staying no matter what.
They are staying.
Okay, so you're just trying to find a week 0 team then?
No, Spring Ford and Central Dauphin. One of them stays.
One of them will stay.
We'll stay in
okay.
what we call week 2.
Right.
Week 3 is Manheim Central because the LL rearranged, realigned.
Yeah, that was.
I don't know why they did that, and they had 8-8-8, and now they went to 7-7-10.
Yep.
Or 7, and it made a mess of the schedules.
Yeah. So actually, we'll jump to that. We'll come back talking a little bit more about week 0. But you brought it up, and I wanted to touch on it. I know this is now a year ahead of things, but it's been out there, and I know in January when this kind of blindsided people, everyone was talking, and I promised that I would ask about it and just to get your take on it. So, so they're dropping 2 schools, Lebanon and Ephrata are dropping from 1 and 2 to 3. So they have a huge league in Section 3.
Right, 10 teams.
10 teams. So I guess they'll 9 games in and 1 non-league game. I guess is the thing, and then Sections 1 and 2 are going to cross over.
Correct.
And you were graciously assigned Manheim Central, obviously probably next to Wilson, the biggest team in the Lancaster Lebanon across all the sections. Were you aware of this announcement before it came out in January?
No.
You had just
no.
no memos, nothing came across.
They just kind of sprung out on us.
Yeah.
They decided that Lebanon was struggling and Ephrata was struggling, so the best thing to do is move them to Section 3 and make them better. And it's like, okay, maybe their competition's not as tough, but that doesn't make a team better necessarily.
Sure. Well, the last time the Bulldogs played the Barons was way back in week 2, 2011. That game was actually moved to a Monday because of all the torrential rain. Your team won 27-13 and wouldn't lose again actually till the District 3 championship in a really tough game against Central Dauphin, who went on to win the state title that year. When you think of the Manheim Central program, what comes to mind, and are you excited to see them again?
Well, we back in 2012 when they dropped us.
Yeah.
All right. Mike Williams is he's a good friend of mine. Said they felt they could play with us each year, but the problem they had was we were so physical that they might lose a couple players for the next couple games, and they didn't have the depth to be able to afford to do that, which is why they dropped us. And I understood that, but they don't want to play us now for the same reason. So they're going to play us week 4. Well, it's actually week 3, but maybe they'll do away with the 0 week.
Now that becomes the actual week 1 again, so Mifflin's week 2.
But they're going to play us the 4th game, and then the next game they go right into the league. So they're right into that scenario of do they really want to play us? I mean, at least before they were week 2 and they had a down game before they came into the league. Now they're going to be going right into the league after playing us. So, and they haven't changed. I mean, Mike stepped down as head coach, but he's still there coaching.
Right.
So they're going to be the same program. It'll be an exciting game, but it just gives us one heck of a non-league schedule.
Yeah, really.
No breathers.
And for the last number of years, we've said how strong the non-league slate has been, and now that we're expanding that to 4 games, and that 4th game is Manheim Central, there's no breaks in there. But that's probably the way you want it, though. You want to see how you stack up. I mean, other than the physicality and the potential for injuries.
Physicality is
sure.
the part. Now we're going to a fourth physical game before we start the league. No matter how you look at it, that means you got to be very sparing with your players. And
sure.
You can't give your running backs a lot of carries. You can't, because they're going to take a beating.
Now we'll come back to this year. Now we'll talk about the week 0 and the issues that you are presented by not playing that with the other teams. You talked about Mifflin. The normal week 1 you play Mifflin, but they in week 0 will play West York. They got a game under their belt. Then the next week 2, Springford will have already played Unionville and another game before you. And then Central Dauphin, they actually don't have an extra game, but they got a bye week coming in to your game. Although they'll have already played a game as well. So all 3 are playing in week 0. How do you feel about that? You touched a little bit on it last year, but now that all of the teams you're playing will have either rest or an extra game, how does that change things from your perspective?
If you start with Mifflin, the thing about it later in the year it doesn't matter.
Sure.
But early in the year, the hardest thing to do is number 1, get your kids battle tested, on offense and defense, and even bigger than that is your special teams, because you can't do special teams live. It's just too dangerous to do them live in practice, and you don't have enough players that you can put against each other. So, by Governor Mifflin getting that week 1 game, and we're week 2, that gives them the edge of their special teams they're going to replace some people, have played, battle hardened, and it gives them an edge. It gives them an edge on all 3 aspects, offense, defense, and special teams. It really gives them the edge on special teams. Now, on the other hand, for us, we will get to see them, scout them in a full game, where they're going to scout us in a scrimmage, and so they're not going to see our special teams, so that gives us a little bit of an edge, but I still think the game under your belt for all those kids that didn't start last year, all those huge mistakes you make in the first game, the second game,
they get all the kinks out and all the nerves in that game, and then now you got a Mifflin team coming where your guys are feeling that, but they've already done that.
And then Spring Forward, same thing.
Yep.
When they get 2 games, they only get the 1. So now they're really starting to polish, and both of those games are away.
On the road, yeah.
So it really, puts us at a bit of a disadvantage. Now, Central Dauphin, I actually think, with the exception of the fact that they can recover if they're having health issues, usually you're not too beat up by week 3. That's almost a disadvantage, I would think, having a bye that early.
Tough to keep everyone concentrated and focused on what's at hand.
So I don't know that they're gaining anything by that.
Okay.
I think they just Susquehanna Township wanted to go to week 0, and so they probably moved to week 0 to accommodate them.
What does being an associate member of the Lancaster Lebanon League mean? We're kind of jumping back to the Manheim Central crossover thing that was kind of unleashed on everyone in January. What are the restrictions and disadvantages the program faces because of it?
The only thing that happens when you're associate members, you don't have a vote. So when the league is voting to move 2 teams down, the athletic director is your representative.
Correct.
All right. So when the league, when all the league athletic directors are voting what to do with the league setup and everything, they all have a vote and we don't. So I guess in close votes it makes a big difference. We still can talk, we can still, express our opinions and everything, but we don't have any voting rights.
In the end, Drew's kind of neutered in that respect that he can't.
Yeah,
he's there, he can put an input, he can pass along things that you brought up, and you can talk to them, but in the end they can just ignore anything that's said.
We're the black sheep.
Well, yes. It's been like that for 4 decades.
We've been the only Berks team in the league since Mifflin dropped out, right? They were Reading was the last one.
I'm trying to think which was the last one. I think Reading was the last
Muhlenberg
one.
was the first one to drop out, then Mifflin, then Reading. So, I mean, at one point in time, there was 4 teams of the 8 in Section 1 were
Berks teams, sure.
And now it's just us. And the fact that we won most of the titles doesn't make them like us very much.
No, not so much.
We're back to Berks.
Well, I've heard people, and this is all fans, community, here and outside, talking about Wilson changing leagues. Is that ever on the table? Is that ever a thought that Wilson's going to leave the LL?
Well, I think that the they defer most of those decisions to the head coach.
Okay.
And as long as I'm the head coach, we aren't leaving.
Sure. But
No.
that's black and white.
We very much enjoy the competition there. You know, in Berks County, there's always a couple good teams, but I think but then what happens after you get through one or two, then you start moving down to you're playing the 5As and the 4As and the 3As,
Yep.
and now it starts really hurting in the playoffs and things like that.
Right. LL Section 1 offers you 6A schools
Right.
or a couple 5A, which doesn't impact your power rating system all that much.
So we have no intention of moving back to Berks. Get asked that question all the time.
Yeah, well, I've never actually heard you say it. I've heard rumors about it, and I hear people all the time, and message board folk they're an interesting group of people, but they always have someone in the know,
Right.
and Wilson's leaving this, going to this, and I'm just like, I've never heard
Not
that.
unless they kick us out.
Figure, ask the source. That's probably the best place to go for information. All right, so looking to this year, are there any key newcomers you expect to have a big impact on 2017?
For us, our players?
Yep.
Sean McAndrews is back out after a year off, and I think he could play an important part.
Okay.
Offense, defense, special teams. We're not sure where yet, but he's a big guy. He's 6'2", and he's pretty fast. So he's going to play and have some impact. Obviously, Connor's back. We should be fine there. He's back. We should be fine there. Abdul's a year older, so he'll get more carries this year in the running back spot. Nate Keller's going to play a lot more. I mean, he started 2 or 3 games for us last year as a freshman on the offensive line.
When Franz was injured, yeah.
Which is like unheard of. So he's going to have to step up and play a big role.
Sure.
And then obviously a bunch of juniors that are stepping up to be seniors. Trevor Tenga, one of them. Nick Drake, all those guys. I mean, that's the typical Wilson way.
Yep.
It's your turn to play. You're a senior. Now let's do it. Let's perform.
And you mentioned Connor and Iggy back. What kind of stability does that give to the team to have a returning starter at quarterback and running back?
Well, it's nice. I mean, from a running back standpoint, let's face it, everybody's going to pack the box. We're going to see 7 in the box and 8 in the box a lot. Which, then you have a starting quarterback back, which is good. But, I mean, we lost 4 D1 receivers last year. So now it's going to be up to our receivers to pick up and to step up. Now, Connor had a great year, but he also had that talent to throw to. Now, this year, the talent may be not quite as good, but, or not quite as proven. So they're going to have to get open, and that they'll pack the box. So we're going to have to do a lot more RPO stuff, run pass option stuff. If they want to pack the box, that'll open up the throwing game. If they want to open up, then we're going to pound the rock up inside. But we expect everybody to try to stop it.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and we've seen what he was able to do in the second half of the season.
Sure. Once he got a handle on our offense,
yeah, I mean, ended up
his own game.
over 1,600 yards, and I know Drago just mentioned in his 10 things to watch that he's about 1,200 or 1,300 yards shy of a Berks rushing record. I talked to him yesterday and a bunch of the other senior players, and he doesn't seem to have any focus on that. That means nothing to him. There's much bigger things out there, and it's good to have. I mean, they said the right things. So that's what they're thinking. They seem to be honest, though. So.
In the back of their mind, it's always, I want to do this. But they understand that the way we coach, the way we drive everything through, it's all about the team. If it happens, it happened because he's not going to carry the ball any more than he would have carried the ball if he wasn't going for the record. There's going to be opportunities, and, hopefully he gets a couple big runs in there that'll stack his yardage up, because he's not going to carry it, especially early on.
Right.
We play the game like we're going to play 13, 14, 15 games every year. That means you got to have a back. You can't give the back 30, 35 carries if he's going to play, 15 games.
Right.
That's 450 carries in a season.
Get worn down.
At our level, we get beat up.
Yeah.
So,
well,
hopefully he'll get those 10 or 15 touches in the early games, and that's it.
And make something happen with it.
Yeah.
Well, we saw that team first on display in the playoffs last year, where everyone wanted him to keep getting the ball because he had 6 touchdowns and he was going to tie a breaker record held by an NFL pro. But you're thinking about injuries and wear and tear, and you shut him down.
Hey, we get a lead, those starters are coming out.
That's right.
Number 1, because we don't want them to get hurt. Number 2, because those guys behind them are busting their butt all week long. They want to play. And we got to have them ready if somebody gets hurt. So
You brought up the wide receivers, and I'm going to talk to Coach O in a few days about restocking his group there. So let's go to the other side of the ball, and let's talk about your defense, and primarily in the secondary. In addition to the graduations of Tommy O'Brien, Mason McElroy, Justin Weller, and the injury that Joey Fox sustained, he won't be ready to go at least at the start of the season. What's been done to address the changes this season, and who are the guys that Coach Naples will rely on back there?
Well, as I said, Isaiah Gilmore played quite a bit last year. Was a really good cover corner for us. Has gained about 10 or 15 pounds, so we're moving in. He's going to get moved into a safety, and he'll probably do most of the play calling. With the absence of Joey, we don't have another safety. Didn't have another safety with any experience, but Isaiah's been doing a nice job, picking it up. He's just got to get some game hardening, and he's got to get better at reading keys and that kind of stuff. Trevor Tango's probably going to be at the one corner. Played some last year. He's a little bit bigger this year. That's his senior year, so he's a little more invested. Sean McAndrews and Angel Martinez are probably going to man the other corner. Wait and see. They both have speed. Sean's a little bit taller, but he missed a year, so he's got to pick up on the nuances of the game. And then our second safety is still up for grabs.
Okay.
There's several kids we're looking at. Cameron Magalotti is one of them. We moved him back from the rover, from an outside linebacker position. Now he may still move back to the outside linebacker, or may have the freedom to move him up and back. He's in the hunt. Matt Fry's been battling for the spot. So I think eventually we're going to be pretty decent there. We just got to survive those early games.
Takes time
to get ready to recognize.
With Springford looming in that second game for you.
Oh yeah, wise, yeah.
Yeah, we saw how things were thrown around last year and the points put on the board, so that'll be interesting. Learning by fire, for sure. So that's a nice mixture of a few upperclassmen and then some younger guys. So it's nice to know that for the future, these guys are getting experience this year for years to come. Especially Matt Fry, he's only a sophomore this year, and then you have a few juniors back there. Just a few more questions here, Coach. What's your opinion on the in-season transfers that seemed to be all the rage last year? Do you have any comments on that, or how that you think they should be handled?
I don't know what the PIAA was doing there, because normally that's like a big red flag and you're done. But there was three really high-profile ones in the middle of the season that pretty much. Harrisburg had a nice team, and they really got a nice team with the
they didn't fall to the state final.
Two of them. Hey, in my mind, if a kid wants to go to another school, let them go. We deal with the charter schools where they come from all over all the time anyway.
Right.
But so the PIAA, says they can do whatever they want, but if you're in a public school, no, you can't do that. So maybe they're easing up. I don't know.
Well, segues have been on point, because my next question was about, I don't know if you saw, I posted it on this social accounts that Max Preps put Wilson as the 14th most dominant PA high school program since 2006, which is the year that you took over the program. It was noticed by many that a majority of the top 15 happened to be non-boundary schools. Why does the PIAA resist separating the boundary and non-boundary schools when it comes to playoffs? Like, what is their hesitance there? Is it all about litigation?
I think. I don't know. I know that I hear that way back when PIAA brought the Philadelphia public schools in, and they were trying to bring the parochial schools in and the charter schools in, that somebody's, and I don't know this for a fact, but somebody said there was the Pennsylvania legislature had to pass some separation of church and state thing to allow it to happen.
All right.
And from what people have said, they said they'd have to they'd have to get rid of that. So there's actually a legal issue that says they're allowed. To me, it would make a lot more sense to have 4 public schools and 2 private school sections and just go. But you know what? That's not going to happen. The PIAA is not going to do that. They've said right out it's dead. It's a dead issue. So, hey, we just have to take on the challenge, and it just means that when you get to that semifinal, state semifinal,
West
you have to play good, smart football. And you have to happen to have a team that's pretty stacked.
Yeah, it's tough, and this isn't just a Wilson perspective. This is a D3 perspective in general. It's just tough when you get to the West Final. You've got to beat someone like Pittsburgh Central Catholic.
Right.
And then if you do that, you usually have to play someone like St. Joe's Prep. It's tough to take down both of those. Yeah, it's LaSalle College High School. To beat those in back-to-back weeks at the end of the season.
Especially, then you got to hope you're healthy.
Right.
What you're going to face against them is like last year, Pittsburgh Central Catholic. Every one of their offensive line was a Division I recruit.
Right.
So you're not facing little guys. You're facing 250, 300-pound linemen. You're facing 230, 240-pound linebackers, 210, 220-pound backs. You're going to have a physical game, and then you got to be able to recover.
And that's not to discount the other schools in District 7. Obviously, North Allegheny, you've seen firsthand. Pine Richland, also boundary school. And out in our half of the state, despite not playing in that part, when we get to the semis, North Penn, Parkland. So there's very good boundary schools out there, all of which made that Max Preps list. It's just tough when people are seeing 9 of the top 15 don't play exactly by the same rules as everyone else.
Well, what has really happened is they have been there in basketball for years, but in the last couple of years, since they really started pushing their football programs, and now they're, Archbishop Wood, LaSalle, St. Joe's, Pittsburgh Central Catholic, their programs are up, and now the kids are flocking to those programs. And their scholarship programs, some of them too, so, it's
tough.
not like,
All right, so as head coach, your teams have earned 129 wins, which ties for you for second in Wilson history with Jerry Slemmer. You're 22 shy of tying Coach Gursky's mark of 151. Do you have the drive and energy to stay with the program to eclipse 150 and become the wins leader? Is that something that I know you probably don't look at the stats, but in terms of longevity, is that something you think you're interested in doing a few more years?
That's stuff that people talk to me about, and people say you got to do this. As far as I'm concerned, the kids, as long as I'm enjoying it, as long as I'm being successful at it, as long as the kids are enjoying it and the kids are being successful, that's what's most important to me. I mean, the wins, as I tell them all the time, you take care of all the little stuff and the wins will take care of themselves. So, my wife would probably love that, love to see that. I'm sure I have some friends that would love to see that, but me personally, it's, sorry.
No problem.
I guess it would be a feather in my cap, but I don't compare myself to John Gursky. I mean, John Gursky took a program that was non-existent and put it on the map. Jerry Slemmer continued with that. Jim Contafio continued with that. And I just try to keep the tradition going. I mean, I think, and I say this all the time, although my assistant coaches will bust me about it all the time. I say, it's not me, it's the staff. And the time and the effort they put in, and then the kids buy in because our staff puts all the time and effort in. I'm just, I don't know, the leader of the ship or whatever. But, it's because of the Jeff Brubakers and the Jeremy Palms and the Ernie Wolvers and the Paul Cabells and the rest of the staff that we are where we are.
Well, you're sitting at, overall, in terms of the entire time you've been with Wilson as head and assistant, you're at 393 wins. So, things go well this year, and they go the way they have since you've taken over, winning 10 or more games every year except for one. Odds are in your favor to get to 400 this year, and that'd be quite the milestone to have that many wins at a program.
Yeah, I guess if you're in a program, well, you'd have to be there long, but, with our success, but yeah, I guess, 400. Wow.
Yeah,
that's a lot.
Yeah, that is a lot. That's a lot of wins. A lot of coaches will never see that number to have that many. Some won't even coach that many games to get to that many wins. Right. So it's definitely something special. The last thing that you mentioned, the coaches and how helpful they've been to you over the years. Are there any coaching staff changes this year? Anyone new?
No, the staff's pretty much intact. Kyle Klein, who was one of our volunteer assistants, so the defensive line has stepped down because his daughters are now actively involved in a lot of youth sports.
A lot of other things going on for him.
So he's, between that and his work schedule. But other than that, it's
status quo.
Status quo, yeah.
Well, it seemed to work out, so I think that's probably a good thing for everyone to hear. So that's all I got for you this year. I thank you for taking the time to answer my questions, and look forward to covering the team this year and talking to you after some wins on Friday nights.
Hopefully we can be successful.
All right. Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Joe.
All right, so you got to hear from Coach Doms on episode 2 of the Bulldog Hour. I think that was a good interview. What do you think about that, Justin?
I agree. We're always big fans of Coach Doms, and thank him for giving us some of his time here in the preseason so that we could get some insight into what he's thinking about as we move into the season.
Yeah, so we display our love, loyalty, and emotions on our sleeve, or I guess sometimes on our face.
Yeah, we're big fans.
Be it as that may. But we have other coaches to talk to, including defensive coordinator Ernie Wolber and wide receivers coach Joe Opalanek. So enjoy hearing from some of the Bulldogs' assistants. All right, well, defensive coordinator Ernie Wolber is joining me now on the second episode of the third season of the Bulldog Hour. So welcome back to the show, Coach. How was the offseason?
It was good. Still stung a little bit losing like we did in the state semifinal. So we did some different things defensively, trying to evolve, trying to become better. But it was a nice off season.
Is there much of an off season?
Well, ask my wife, and she says no. But I consider it all season. I mean, we do the plyometrics all January, February, and then we got lifting and every morning. So it's kind of they're not playing football, but we're around them. So really, there's no off season away from the kids.
So like in 2016, the beginning of the 2017 schedule has some significant challenges. The biggest difference this season, though, is that every opponent either has an extra game or has a bye week before playing you. Is there any significant defensive pro or con to having one less game or another team having a bye week beforehand? What are the first 3 weeks posed to you as a defensive coordinator?
For us, I mean, it's always an advantage, a team playing a game before us because they get the game speed, game tempo, things like that. On the other hand, a lot of times the film is hard to see Mifflin's film. So the scrimmages were hard to detect. They ran their offense, and it was hard to really see a lot of things. But now we could at least see some numbers, know who's playing where, and hopefully pick up some better film out of the game than we would the scrimmage. Once you get into the second week, spring forward, 2 games under the belt. Now, they only have one of our films, but we have 2 of theirs. But again, game speed, you can't simulate game speed in practice. So that's the hardest part. And then Central Dauphin have a bye before us. As a coach, I'm like either way, like that bye early in the year when you're just things rolling might not be good, but if you're a little banged up, it could help. But the kids have focus that week, so I don't know if it's a real good thing at that point. Either way, we're fighting an uphill battle. I mean, we're playing, like you said, everybody's playing a week before us, have 2 games under their belt, and then then we have a bye week with Central Dauphin, so it's going to be hard.
Yeah, Coach Dom said that he thought the bye for Central Dauphin actually more of a hindrance to them than it is help. Like you mentioned, it's sometimes tough to keep kids focused and on top. And when you're doing the same thing, preparations for Wilson for 2 weeks, sometimes kids get bored and they zone out.
Absolutely.
But you did mention, and Coach Dom said the same thing. If they get beat up in the first 2 weeks, they have some time to heal.
Exactly.
So yeah, pros and cons to all that. But next year we know that Wilson will be on the same playing field as everyone else, playing week 0. So I guess that would be actually week 1 then. We don't need to worry about this week 0
so
nonsense.
Tired of using zeros. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, well, it's actually, I feel like Wilson and teams like Wilson that haven't gone to it for this 2-year cycle have been using week 0, and everyone else just calls it week 1, and it gets so confusing.
Absolutely. People say, like, are you playing Mifflin week 1 next year? No, we're playing in week 2. Why? Are they moving back? No, it's the way the schedule. Yeah. So I tell everybody, we play Mifflin Labor Day weekend. No matter if it's 1, 2, 3, I don't care. We play Mifflin Labor Day weekend. That's when we play them.
I asked Coach Doms about how scheduling works, how he does it with athletic director Kaufman. Does Coach Doms come to the assistant coaches and talk about the potential opponents on the schedule?
All the time. We evaluate. He usually sends that. If it's during the school year, he'll send out emails. If it's during this time of year, we talk about it. He very rarely will say yes or no to a team. Unless we're in a tight crunch where he has to make a decision. But always come down and ask us, what do you think? Do you want to play these guys, not play these guys? What do you think of this schedule? Things like that. So he usually checks with us.
Coach Donovan mentioned one possibility being North Penn, maybe in what would have been week 0, now the real week 1 for you in 2018. Is that one that stood out to you would that be great to have him on the schedule?
Well, getting into next year, I mean, you got Mifflin Labor Day weekend, followed by Springford, followed by Manheim Central.
Right.
So you got 3 tough games. Now you throw in the monster of North Penn. Now
Right.
you got 4 brutal non-league games until you get into League 6. Now, how healthy we can come out of it, that's a daunting task. I mean, would we do it? Absolutely. You know, we'd play anybody. I would choose not to, just for safety reasons and keep us a little better. But I guess we're still trying to figure out some teams to play for that. So
Yeah.
we'll see how it turns out.
Yeah, I hate to ask questions a year from now as we're focusing on 2017 season, but a lot of the stuff that I've heard on Facebook and Twitter, people are talking about the scheduling because of how stuff has jostled last year, this year, and then into next year with the LL throwing that wrench
Yes.
into the system in January.
It's so many things. POW made the change. I understand that's the necessity for the change, but I wish they would have let the dust settle a little bit. Like, everybody's still in their own thing. Next year, finally, it's do it if everybody's on the same page.
Right.
But here's 2 years now, just all over the place with contracts being broken and scrimmages trying to be rescheduled and just craziness, mayhem. I understand why they did it, but I wish they would have waited, let everybody get the contract settled, and then move on.
It would have been, all right, so 2016, we're going to 6 classification, or we're adopting 6 classifications. It'll start in 2018.
Yes,
it would have
something
been
like
a
that.
2-year.
It would have been a much easier transition because teams are scrambling. We had Imitep scheduled for scrimmage.
Yep.
Everything was set to go, and then they called us and said, "No, we're not going to scrimmage." Now we picked up a game.
Yep.
Because they only had 7 games scheduled at the time, so they picked up Harrisburg to play in a potential ESPN game or whatever.
That's what I'm hearing, yeah.
Yeah, so and that was just 6 weeks ago. We just got our scrimmage officially for second week, I think 2 weeks ago.
It is nice for it to be Reading, though, to have the Berks
easy
County
transportation,
connection, and
yes.
obviously the coaching staffs know each other very well.
Exactly.
And I think it gives the opportunity for fans to see another game, even if
Yes.
it is just a scrimmage. Going to Albright and seeing Reading Wilson play,
And-
it brings out a lot of good
Absolutely,
memories.
and you play half of football. I mean,
Yep.
you're not doing kicking off and kick return, but your punt return, everything. It's a full game for half of a game, so it's kind of watching a game played. So that's nice for school wise, for financial school ability. You know, they're limited financially to do scrimmages, so it's nice to travel for 10 minutes.
Yeah, local.
Exactly.
So last year, Springford, our week 2 opponent, their week 3, they put up 40 points against Wilson in week 2 last year. It was the most points surrendered by a Wilson defense in the regular season with Coach Doms as head coach, and you took over as defensive coordinator the same year.
Mm-hmm.
It was way back before all that in October of 2005 when an opponent scored 40 or more against the Bulldogs in the regular season.
That was Hempfield, right?
Hey, it was.
Yeah, I remember that one.
It was 56.
Yes, they hammered us down there.
Yeah, it was. It was down at Hempfield. So how did you feel? And now going back to the Springford, how did you feel after that game? It was a win, so I know you'll take it. But how did you adapt the rest of the way? Did Springford show something that you knew there was a weakness or deficiency in the defense that you could adapt to or adjust?
They scored 20 in regulation. I want to clarify that.
True. Yeah, you're right. It was an overtime game.
Exactly, which is they scored both possessions overtime, which I wasn't too happy about. But but no, it's a situation where they came out. They had a lot of talent, a lot of ability, and Chad, being their coach, has some knowledge of our defense, and he tried to take advantage of. He tries to put his best players on our worst player, if you will, and got some matchups, and we blew some assignments early in the year. Again, their third game, our second. Going against Mifflin, Mifflin's a whole different animal, as we know, offensively. So, we try to prepare for that spread stuff, but you play Mifflin, a slow, methodical, run the ball at you.
Yeah.
Now, all of a sudden, opening play, they come out in empty sets and shifts and do all kinds of stuff. And
Stark contrast.
we practiced, but again, practicing is not game. And you get into bright lights, and all of a sudden, a little bit of that first drive, they went down and scored. I mean, it was nuts. We were down 14-0 in that game, actually. But our kids calmed down, settled down, and came back and played okay. So we gave a 14 in the first quarter, and then we gave 14 for 3 quarters and 14 in overtime. So it wasn't, as I'm happy about it, no. Changes, it was just basically settling down. It was just because they had good receivers, good running back, good quarterback, and they were throwing it all over the place and running all over the place, and we couldn't adjust. And it was kind of, our kids were just a little overwhelmed. And once they calmed down, we did pretty well.
Yeah, and you asked for my follow-up to that was asking about if Chad Brubaker had the familiarity with the system. It has to have some kind of advantage. You can only change so much.
Exactly.
You don't want to get away from your philosophy.
Yes.
You got to make some adjustments.
Absolutely. And does he know everything in and out? No, but he understands what we try to do and what our philosophies are. And part of that, understanding that is going to help him. He was very multiple. He did some things that, quick personnel changes, with some no-huddle stuff, which we prepared for, but again, we couldn't get a practice at speed, that tempo.
Sure.
So it was hard. So we had to adjust a little bit and just calm down and settle down.
how do you like the high school overtime rule? Do you feel it really puts the defenses with their back against the wall, being
Absolutely.
that close to the end zone?
I'd like to see it like the colleges play at 25. I'd like to
Yes.
see us maybe the 15 to have to get a first down.
Mm-hmm.
To change it a little bit that way, just because I don't know if it's going to make it longer, overtime, less overtime. I guess they're trying to keep it safe for the kids. But a 10-yard, I mean, you come up with a broken play, it's a touchdown. You get a 15 yards on 5 more yards, but you have some more things to do. Plus, you can get a first down.
True.
You can do some other things. So I wish they would extend it out a little bit, but I don't think they're going to do that.
Well, yeah, you mentioned how the points exploded in that game. I mean,
They always do
you
in
mentioned,
overtime.
You mentioned, giving up 20 points in the first 4 quarters and then the multiple in the overtime,
Yep.
because you're basically giving points away.
Yes.
The defense has to make a stop because the offense is going to keep putting them up. And we saw it just a year ago, it would have been just, not even a year removed, that district championship between Cumberland Valley and Central Dauphin
kept
went,
scoring.
7 or 8 overtimes.
Exactly. And they all scored touchdowns every time.
Yeah, and so we had a game in, the 50s or 60s.
Absolutely. When regulation was, 17?
Yeah, it was like high teens or low 20s.
Yeah, exactly.
Or
The
something
final
like that.
score, yeah.
Yeah, it's so crazy. So let's look at the team this year as a whole, and obviously it happens every year, the impact of significant contributors moving on to graduation, but it seems to be maybe magnified a lot this year because if I calculated it right, every single defensive starter from 2016 that graduated is now playing college football.
Yes.
O'Brien, Weller, McElroy, Wright, Jalot, Twyford, Quigley, and Regal. Did I miss anyone? Did I get it all? Okay. They're all playing college ball. So that leaves you with 3, maybe 4 returning contributors. Will the new defensive squad need new wrinkles in scheme to account for the change in talent? Or is it just expected that the 2017 seniors and underclassmen will just have to step up?
It'll be a little bit of both.
Okay.
We try to, as a staff, we try to make the defense, we try to adapt to our personnel. If we're real fast and smaller, we'll do a lot of stunning and a lot of moving. If we have a little bigger up front, sometimes we won't do as much stunning. We'll stay more, focused on our base defense. But right now, we're not sure how it's going to go yet. I mean, right now, we're looking going in with our regular stuff and then see what happens. I mean, we're looking for starters. Right now, our defensive line is kind of set almost.
Okay.
But an inside linebacker, we're kind of set. But in the secondary and outside linebackers is still wide open. So we got to find out who's going to play where. We're going to give run support from safety, or is there not going to be a great run support guy? So we're trying to find out our strengths and weaknesses right now, and then try to make our game plan according to that. I do think we're athletic, very athletic on the back end, but we got to put the right people. Coach Gersi's always said the toughest job is with the right people in the right positions, and we don't know if we have the people at the right positions right now, so we're trying to work that out.
Well, you talked about there's going to be some new starters at outside linebacker and in the secondary. Inside linebacker, defensive line, pretty much there. Some returners in those areas. But looking at the outside linebackers and the secondary, is there 1 or 2 of the new starters or ones that you think will be big contributors that you're really excited about to see what they can do on Friday nights?
Starting in secondary, Isaiah Gilmore played corner for us at the end of the year last year. We moved him to safety. And he's done some really neat things, really neat things for us. He's very athletic. I think he'll end up becoming our safety. But that's a big transition from corner to safety. A lot more responsibility as far as making calls defensively for us. But he's exciting to watch. Corner, we have Tanga, who played last year for us quite a bit. He played some safety, some corner. I assume he'll probably take one of the corner spots. Just because he's a senior, he's a strong kid. He's finished placed in states in the hurdles. He's a fast, athletic kid. The other corner, Sean McAndrews came back to the team this year. If the last year didn't play, he could be a possibility. Angel Martinez could be a possibility. Cookie could be using nicknames. Cookie could be a possibility at corner. There's a lot of kids vying for that spot. Outside linebacker right now, Iggy might have to play some defense. And then we have Andrew Weller, who played last year, some outside linebacker. But then we have Platha, Hunter Regal, we have Chris Roberson, we have some young kids, some 10th graders possibility maybe playing there. Jaquan Souther, Jr. coming back, maybe could play there. So right now, if we played a game tomorrow, I could tell you could start every position except outside linebacker. If we had a game tomorrow, I would have no idea who would start.
And coincidentally, that's your position, Coach.
I know. So a lot of pressure's on me. Dom keeps telling me, don't worry. He keeps letting me know that.
Yeah. So you mentioned Iggy possibly seeing time at outside linebacker. Will there be an opportunity for Yurig to see any time in defense, or has that been scrapped?
That's pretty much maybe. And if we go with the 3 safety look, and nobody else steps up. Mm-hmm. I mean, we don't want it to happen, But obviously, what's best for the team is what's best for the team. We hope somebody else. Connor could be a really good defender for us. We know that. Everybody knows that. But hopefully, one of the other guys steps up and actually can do what Connor can do defensively at safety. Like sometimes against throwing teams and definite pass situation, we'll play 3 safeties. Hopefully, one of the younger guys steps up and takes it away from Connor. So right now, he's kind of our emergency guy. Okay. He still gets reps defensively, still does drills.
Sure.
But don't get him in tackling drills and get him in all that stuff. But he's still fresh in his mind, so he has a clue what to do if we need him.
That leadership comes in a bunch of different ways, and on defense, generally, an inside linebacker and a safety are kind of the guys calling the plays, calling the shots, adjusting people. Do you expect one of those positional guys to be the vocal defensive leader, or is there someone else that's stepping up and is kind of getting these guys together and saying, let's go?
Inside linebackers will probably be Hatley and Johnson. Hatley started last year. He's been more vocal this year. He's not a crazy motivating type guy, but he's picking people up and telling them what they're doing and trying to help them out. Chris Price is probably our emotional leader right now. All winter he's been in the weight room saying the right things, doing the right things, and he's injured right now. Hopefully he'll be back for Mifflin. But he's kind of our vocal leader right now. He plays defensive end, returning starter defensive end. He's kind of our emotional guy right now defensively. And again, depending who ends up starting where, another guy could step up and be an emotional type leader too. So it depends who ends up playing.
Yeah, you mentioned Chris Price, and we don't like to dwell on individual stuff because Wilson's always been about the team success. That's what matters. And this is me talking. I was really surprised last year that he didn't get much recognition in some of the awards. Wilson got a ton of recognition, a lot of individual stuff, but I thought Chris Price really got better as the season went on. To see him not mentioned, even honorable mention on some of those awards, was a little confusing for me. So I think that's definitely driven him in the offseason to get better. But obviously, he told us just when I did an interview with him on Monday how much the team success, all the players, that's all team. So,
yeah, and he became very good friends with Isaiah Regal. And Isaiah was a big leader for us last year, and Chris really kind of took that role. You understand, Chris going his junior year started both ways. Mm-hmm. We didn't know if he was starting until when we went into the 2-days.
Yep.
Like he was that outside guy, question mark, and he ended up playing all year both ways for us. He had a great year. And again, like you said, people got accolades, but he really watched that leadership, especially Isaiah last year, how he led us. Isaiah's a big leader as far as by example, too. One of the hardest workers we ever had. So that helped Chris transform into that type of leader.
Yeah, it was great to see. I actually remember leading up to the Mifflin week, it might have been just 2 days before the game, I messaged him and said, what's the status? And he said he was getting the call both ways.
Yep.
And I remember being very excited to see him to get that opportunity.
Yeah, he worked very hard. He deserves it.
All right, so let's shift back to looking at some of the opponents, but some of their players. You've seen film from past years, and obviously you're gathering stuff for this year, but on paper, who would you say is the most dangerous opposing offensive skill players you're going to see? A quarterback, running back, receiver. Can be league, non-league. Just
I got you.
Who stands out?
Looking at it, I know, and I went over my book from last year. Mifflin returns a lot, as everybody knows. They're in the teen starters, 13, 14 starters, whatever it is. They're going to have a really quick quarterback that played some last year, split time. They got a real good fullback. They also have Darius Copeland, who went here, who's a real good player for us and probably would have played for us this year. Moved to Mifflin now, so he's a dangerous player over there. Up front, obviously returns some players, but if you're looking as far as skill, I know Springford returns a starting quarterback, and he was very good last year, so I'm sure he's going to be just as good this year, if not better. Central Dauphin, I'm not sure. They graduated so many people, but they are, like us, they reload. And I'm sure they have some skilled players coming up and be able to play. Once you get into league play, open up with Warwick, Ricci the tight end, getting all kinds of accolades. Yep. Him being down there, Grayson Klein now being a quarterback down there. He's starting down there, but he's at school down there, so he might be their quarterback. Receiver, I think they graduated most of the receivers from last year. But getting to league play, obviously, the big target is Township. Mm-hmm. Township returns so many players. They're actually their offensive skill positions all return, I think, for one wide out. So they're going to have a ton of skill kids. They're going to have a great quarterback, a good running back, quality wide receivers. So looking ahead, I think Township probably is the most offensive talent that we're going to see this year, regular season.
Wow, so that says a lot with that early season schedule, and to say
just returning quarterback, running back, receivers, sure. Them knowing us so well, their coaches, they're very well coached. They might have the most offensive firepower, but ultimately, when it comes down to it, we're still talking about trying to stop Mifflin. That's where our minds are right now. But looking down the road, like I just happened to look at that a couple weeks ago, who's returning players. Everybody has a couple good guys, good players. Lebanon quarterback was scary last year against us.
Oh, yeah.
He is really fast, really scary, so he's going to be an explosive player for him. Just players stick out in my mind. Stevie graduated a lot. Hempfield has some kids coming back. They have a wide receivers getting some D1 looks. So there's some talent spewed throughout the league.
I know, and this is not to bring up a team that's not even on the schedule, but the CDE's quarterback is back as well, and he was scary dangerous last year.
He was. Left-hander. Yeah, I remember him very well. We did some special game plans for him. We always run into the playoffs, so who knows? Yeah. If we get fortunate enough to make the playoffs, East will probably be on our schedule at that time, and then we got to face that kid again.
Yeah, well, one of the nice things from a scouting standpoint is that 2 of your season opponents play early. Township and Central Dauphin go head-to-head. Was it technically week one?
Real week one, not 0, week 1, yeah.
So the night you play Mifflin, Central Dauphin and Township hook up.
Yes.
That's got to be that should be an interesting matchup. But
they played the last 2 years, and
CD took care of them.
CD beats them, but you know what? Township does some nice things. CD just seemed to overwhelm them a little bit. Physically, they were so physical the last 2 years. They kind of physically beat them up a little bit, but Township did some nice things against them. And Township plays Mifflin again, too. Township plays Mifflin
That's right,
week 2 or
week
3.
After, I think the week that we play Springford, I think is when.
I think it is. Yeah. So it's a matchup that So the Central Dauphin Township matchup is going to be interesting, and a lot's going to dictate on that. I'm sure whatever we do against Central Dauphin, people are going to start comparing. And the same with Mifflin. Whatever we do against Mifflin and then Township, whatever they do, we do against them. That's going to be a lot of comparisons. So there's some interesting matchups, and it's going to be able to see them against quality opponents too. Like seeing Central Dauphin against quality opponents, seeing Man Township against quality opponent, seeing Mifflin against quality opponent is a good thing.
Justin and I are notorious for saying when it comes to sports that the mathematical property, the transitive property does not apply. No. Just because, Township beats CD or vice versa and we beat one doesn't mean we beat the other. No. It doesn't work like that.
Not at all. It's matchups. It all comes down to personnel matchups.
Yep.
And, sometimes you have an off day. But usually it comes down to matchups, like how you match up. We match up very well last year against Central Dauphin. It was kind of even, but you look at Township, and we overmatched Township last year. So those things happen, like you said. It doesn't work that way.
Well, I think that's all I got for you, Coach. So thanks for joining us. I look forward to talking to you after each win this season.
Hope there'll be a lot of them.
Me too.
Thanks. Take care.
Okay, so we got to hear from defensive coordinator Ernie Wolber and wide receivers coach Joe Opalanik, and we thank them for taking the time out of their busy schedules to sit down and talk with the Bulldog Hour as we get ready to start the 2017 season. Well, I think that wraps up everything for this show.
Yeah, just thanks again to the coaches. We thank the players last week, thank the coaches this week. Again, it's that their willingness to let us have access, is what allows us to make the shows, and it makes it a lot of fun. So thanks again.
Definitely. So I think that's everything for episode 2 of the Bulldog Hour. We will be back in the coming weeks to cover the team more and get ready for our live shows following the Mifflin game on September 1st. Again, those will be on Sunday nights at 8:30 p.m. on Facebook Live every other week. So September 3rd is the first Sunday we're doing a live show. Don't forget you can follow us and interact with us in many ways. There's ways to support us, and we do want to thank our anonymous donor that has helped out for the last 3 years, so we appreciate that. And also to May's Sandwich Shop, the corporate sponsor, who is also entering the 3rd year in partnership with us for the show. And if you'd like to be an advertising or a sponsor of the show, be sure to check out BulldogHour.com. Until next time, you're listening to episode 2 of the Bulldog Hour's 3rd season. I'm Joe Mays. He's Justin Raffoff. And remember, go Bulldogs.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Bulldog Hour. Want more Wilson football? Follow the show on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and SoundCloud. Or visit www.bulldoghour.com. The Bulldog Hour is a featured program on jmnjrradio.com.